My Hero Academia All's Justice has a lot going for it. It's the third game in the My Hero One's Justice series, covering the final arc of the anime. It has the largest character roster so far, new game modes, new gameplay mechanics. It's set to be the definitive My Hero Academia game, and yet, it still fails to stick the landing. While there is a lot to like about All's Justice, there are a number of weird decisions, cut content, and frankly scummy moves that hold this game back from being the ultimate My Hero Academia game. This is why My Hero Academia All's Justice is almost great. The gameplay of One's Justice and One's Justice 2 was always a cut above your standard arena fighter, offering distinct character movesets and an overall more strategic experience in comparison to most button mashers. And I'd like to say that All's Justice takes what came before it and perfects it, while it most certainly does add to what came previously, it also subtracts heavily. For starters, one of the most common complaints I've seen about the combat in One's Justice and its sequel was how floaty it plays. And it seems King listened. In previous games you could double jump, now you no longer can, and in its place you can dive, which quickly grounds you. It definitely feels more grounded overall, which I certainly appreciate. The other big new mechanic is the rising system, or in other words, awakenings. When you activate your rising, your character enters a more powerful state. Each character has a unique action and ability while in this mode. For example, Deku's ability activates Danger Sense and enhances his guard, while his action allows him to charge forward in a zigzag pattern to launch an attack. Some characters also have unique appearances, like Todoroki activating Phosphor. However, a lot of the characters just don't have an appearance change. I like the rising system overall, but some characters are definitely given more attention than others. A lot of rising actions just boil down to charging forward and launching an attack, or flying in the air then crashing down. Most of the characters don't even have appearance changes, even when they definitely could have. And only Todoroki gets a unique Plus Ultra in his rising state, while everyone else's is just the same as their default. Speaking of Plus Ultras, in previous games you had 2 levels of Plus Ultras, with your Plus Ultra 2 being a longer, more cinematic ultimate attack. To be fair, some of these did take a really long time and admittedly hurt the pacing of the match, but now they've all been cut out entirely. I'm not the biggest fan of this removal. Most characters only having 1 Plus Ultra now is pretty lame. While the Plus Ultra 2s did interrupt the flow of the game, I would have preferred if they just cut them shorter like Naruto Storm did after Storm 1. The Plus Ultra 2s were a way for more iconic and flashy moves from the series to be translated into the game, and now they're just not here. The next large change to the combat is that it's now 3v3 tag battles. While in previous games you did have access to 2 sidekicks, you couldn't actually tag them in. You could only call them in for assists. Here you choose 3 characters, each with their own health bar, that you can swap between and string combos with. The game really wants you to use the tag system, and this is made clear by a couple of other changes they made. For starters, you can no longer dash cancel. These were used in One's Justice 2 for comboing. While you can attack cancel some attacks, the game really encourages you to combo using the tag attacks. And I know they want you to do that because there is no option for 1v1s in free battle. You have to pick 3 characters, you have to use the tag system. And look, I get it, it is now technically a tag fighter, so of course you want to be using the tag system, but then what's annoying is that most of the battles in story mode, which we'll cover more in depth later, are 1v1s. So it's certainly possible to fight 1v1s in this game, it just doesn't let you. There are a couple of other changes here that just baffle me. First, there's new intros and outros before and after each match. You're able to set your character's poses, except they all look really weird and static, and because of this change, team-specific intros from One's Justice 2 are gone. Before, if you chose a certain combination of characters like Bakugo, Kaminari, and Kirishima, you had a cool unique intro. Now that's not here, and you just get this thing instead. They also changed how counterattacks work. The control scheme is different. Before it would require a directional input plus your attack button, now it's block plus your quirk 1 button. It's a minor change, but an annoying one to get used to nonetheless. Counterattacks and block breaks also trigger these short cinematics as well, which look cool, but I thought the removal of Plus Ultra 2s and unique intros was a sign that we're moving away from cinematics. I think overall I like the combat better than the previous games, I like the more grounded nature. Whilst there is some nepotism with it, the rising system is overall a good inclusion, and I do enjoy the tag system and stringing combos together with your sidekicks. It's just that the cutting of content, like Plus Ultra 2s and the cinematic intros, are signs of a much larger problem with this game. Let's talk characters next. There are 68 characters, with almost all characters from One's Justice 2 returning, with the exception of Shigaraki's before variant, alongside 19 new characters, albeit a handful of those are just variants of Deku, Shigaraki, All For One, and All Might. We finally have the full Class 1A lineup here, alongside Mirko, Best Jeanist, Edgeshot, Monoma, Haya Nomu, and Lady Noggin. It's nice to get the entirety of Class 1 playable, and of course the others are welcome additions as well. But a lot of people were expecting more characters, more Class B characters, Star and Stripe, Mount Lady, Cement Toss, Convoy Woods, Spinner, and the more you look into it, the weirder it becomes. Characters like Cement Toss and Mount Lady are already in My Hero Ultra Rumble, which uses assets from the One's Justice series, and vice versa. But what's even more inexcusable is that Spinner already has assets in this very game. There's a boss fight in the story mode against Spinner. He has a model. He has a moveset. Spinner is an important character. He's one of the only members of the League of Villains not in the game. Why? Oh, is it because they needed fan favorite characters in order to sell DLC? Probably. That's probably also why Star and Stripe has already been announced as the first DLC character. The point of DLC is to supplement the base game with new content made after the game's launch. It's not meant to hold the characters hostage and lock them behind a paywall. Which brings me to the costumes and character customization. The One's Justice series has always been known for having goofy yet varied character customization, multiple costumes and color swaps, but also a ton of other accessories to customize your characters with, and all of that additional customization is gone here. Some characters still have some unique costumes, but not nearly as much as in previous games. For example, the students still have their uniforms, but not their sports uniforms. There are costumes that are only playable in archive battles and story mode, like Vigilante Deku, that you can't use outside of those modes. The version of Shigaraki that's on the cover art is only playable in the story mode. And there are even costumes from Ultra Rumble that would have benefited the archive battles, like Striped Suit All Might, that just aren't here entirely. And some of the few unique costumes that are in this game are paid DLC costumes, like the fantasy skins. And this just sets a dangerous precedent. If King wants to have paid skins in a game like Ultra Rumble, that's totally cool because it is a free-to-play game. Having paid skins in a game like All's Justice is a scummy thing to do because you already have to pay $60 to play it in the first place. And removing the accessories, what was the point of that? Now, instead you can customize your intro and your outro poses and your character banners, but who cares? The accessory system from before offered way more in terms of personalization. And remember when they randomly updated One's Justice 2 to give everyone the Vigilante skin for free? I remember, but I guess King doesn't. There are a number of different game modes to try out, but the most heavily advertised mode is the story mode, which is a step up from the previous game, I think. For starters, the story mode only covers the Final War arc, not the Final Act saga. So despite One's Justice 2 only covering the overhaul arc, this game jumps ahead, skipping a number of arcs. Sure, they're in the archive battles, which we'll touch on later, but it's a shame that a whole chunk of the story isn't properly adapted in any of these three games. Even more so considering the story mode is only a couple of hours long, so it's not like they really expanded on the Final War arc to the point where it's literally all they could fit in. But at the very least, the story mode has a higher quality presentation than the previous games. At least half the time it does. A big point of the marketing for this game was the new 3D cutscenes, which do look great. It was something fans were always asking for with previous story modes, and they finally listened. Kind of. There are 3D cutscenes, they do look good, but a lot of the story is still just told through screenshots from the anime. Except for when they got to the point in development where they'd outpaced the anime and didn't have anything to screenshot, so they had to make their own original art, and it's a huge whiplash moment to go from anime screenshots to this. Anyways, the screenshots from the anime are honestly presented worse than in One's Justice 2. There it had this whole comic book aesthetic going on, whereas here it's just screenshots with PowerPoint transitions and iMovie Ken Burns effects. The combat isn't great here either. There aren't many unique battles that couldn't just be free battles, besides a couple like the aforementioned Spinner fight. And the fights aren't very fun either, because a lot of them are not fair. Like, do not get me started on the final battle. I know most Arena Fighter story modes are really easy, but that didn't mean they have to go to the exact opposite extreme. Some of these matches are just complete BS, where the AI has way more health than you, deals way more damage than you, and just spams unblockable attacks. The next game mode is team up missions, which are a good idea on paper, but in practice are just really boring. There's a hub world you can explore and complete missions in, but it's weird to me that you still have to select a mission before entering the map, instead of organically accepting missions from around the map. But whatever. And this hub world is different from the main hub world. There's a main hub world you can explore, as opposed to just navigating a main menu, but after 5 minutes you'll have seen everything and just opt for using the menu instead. Most of the team up missions are just really boring. It's usually just fetch quests like go see this NPC, go to this location, fight these enemies, and the traversal isn't the greatest thing. In these missions you can only play as class 1A characters and each have their own modes of traversal. For example, Deku swings around using Black Whip. You can tell this game engine wasn't designed for open exploration, it doesn't really feel the best to explore, and not to mention this hub world isn't all that large. If you're expecting an open world akin to Spider-Man, like the marketing would lead you to believe, lower your expectations dramatically. I think they know fans really want an open world My Hero Academia game and kind of just cram this in here instead of actually making one from the ground up. So overall, not a big fan of this mode. It just gets really boring really quickly, which is annoying because for some reason, in order to unlock more archive battles, you have to beat team up missions. The archive battles are a set of battles covering important fights from previous story arcs not in the game. It's a good idea but falls flat in so many ways. Some of these story battles get 3D cutscenes, some do not. Some of these archive battles have appropriate costumes, some do not. For some reason you can't just play these in order and unlock the next battle by beating the previous battle. No. You need to go play a completely unrelated game mode to progress in this one. What's even more odd is that in these archive battles, you fight in arenas from past arcs. But that makes sense, right? What doesn't make sense is that we have another case like the costumes where the stages are only playable in these archive battles. In free battles, you can only fight on Final War arc stages, so I hope you enjoy Piles of Rubble because that's over 50% of your available stages. Why are we limited to these stages? The stages are right there in the archive battles. I'm battling at the USJ right now. Why can't I do that in free battles or online battles? This lack of player choice just permeates throughout this entire game. In free battles, you're restricted to 3v3s, no 1v1s. You can't play round-based games like before. You're restricted to simple one-round matches. Why is this game so restrictive? The stages are what really confuse me, because what are they planning to do? Sell stages as DLC? The online is online, it runs well enough, I didn't encounter many issues with it. Bandai. You were this close to releasing a great anime game, and you ruined it. You ruined it. I mean, Viking probably also played a part, but you ruined it. I don't understand this game, I really don't. There are a number of things to like about it, in comparison to the previous games. I think the combat is the best it's ever been. The story mode got a much needed upgrade. It's the largest roster in the series. There are a number of game modes to check out. And yet, there are a number of things to dislike about this game. Unnecessary gameplay changes like the removal of Plus Ultra 2s, a lack of player choice in free battles like only having 9 stages when there are more in-game, fan favorite characters being left out and probably reserved for DLC despite already having assets in game like Spinner, costumes being locked to archive battles or just outright removed from previous games, accessories replaced by lame customization options like the intro and outro poses that replaced the cinematic intros we had before. And there's even more I didn't mention. This game launched on Xbox Series X, PS5, and PC. No Switch 2 release, despite this game really not feeling all that next gen. And on that point, there's allegedly poor optimization issues too. I personally haven't run into any besides a pretty funny glitch here and there, but I've seen reports of this game just not running well across all platforms. But all comes down to this. Is My Hero Academia All's Justice worth your money? Maybe. Despite my bitching and whining, I had fun with it. The most fun I had was with online battles, because I do believe the combat is solid. But the rest of the game, I'm not too sold on. The cut content is what really gets me, because I can't say for certain, but the costumes, characters, hell maybe even the stages, I don't know, are probably going to come back in the form of paid DLC. I feel like publishers and developers don't understand the point of live service games. I don't have a problem with live service games or games getting constant updates. My problem is when those updates are for content that should already just be in the game to begin with. The point of a live service game is to release updates with new content that they actively work on post-launch, not content that is already done that they want to drip feed to artificially extend the game's lifecycle. Viking has the assets for characters, costumes, stages, let us use them. I get that they want to charge more for additional characters and costumes, but we're already paying $60 for this game. How much more money do they need? I could keep ranting forever about how over-monetized gaming has become, but let's wrap this thing up. If you're a My Hero Academia fan and or you enjoyed the previous games, you'll enjoy this game too. There's definitely fun to be had despite all my criticisms. However, if I hadn't bought the game for this review, then I probably would have refrained from buying it simply on principle, because this is not the type of business model I want to support. Anyways, you guys gonna buy that new Mario Tennis game?